Episode 26 is coming, be patient. So last night I managed to finally catch Avengers Infinity War, and yeah, we're here for another one of these rambly review type videos. The last one of these I did was The Last Jedi, and I like the format I did for that, of me just sitting here. I've not got a script, I've not even got notes to be honest this time, so I'm just going to be kind of rambling off the top of my head. I'm going to be jumping all over the place, most likely. I'm going to try and keep sort of sequential with the movie, but on that note, I'm just going to say now, spoilers. Like, we're dropping all pretense for these reviews of trying to do it spoiler free, because what's the fucking point? If you want to talk about the movie, you're gonna have to spoil some things, and if you're anything like me, you don't really watch movie reviews, especially for something like this, where you know there are things that are going to be spoiled. This is a very spoilable movie because of the twists and the things that happen, and the ending, so we're going to just saying that now. If you don't want to see spoilers, don't watch this video, and on that, let's just fucking get on with it. So, when it comes to the Marvel movies, I'm a fan enough to watch them. I do like these movies, but I mean, there's a couple I haven't seen. I didn't see Black Panther. There's one or two others in the roster I haven't ever seen. But, you know, I do like these movies. With that said, ever since Avengers Assemble, I've been waiting for that story arc, you know, of the original Phase 1 characters, Iron Man and Captain America, and the big bad that's been built up for the last 10 fucking years of Thanos to actually come to a close. Now, of course, it's a two-part movie, so it hasn't actually come to a close even yet. But once it does, I think it's safe to say I'm probably going to be more or less done with the MCU. Maybe there'll be the odd movie that comes out once in a while that I'll be interested in. I will say now, if they do make more Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I'll probably see those, because those are sort of their separate thing almost. Yes, they're in the same universe, but they're kind of standalone movies, which I love. I mean, both Guardians of the Galaxies are in my top 3 even, maybe, top 5 anyway, of all the MCU films. But in general, I know the term superhero fatigue gets thrown around a lot. I'm not saying that, but just generally, I'm kind of, I don't need to keep seeing the new origin movie of every new character every fucking time. But these kind of group movies and the big event films, they're fine. Saying that, I fucking love this. Infinity War. I do feel that quite a lot every time a new Marvel movie comes out. There's a hell of a lot of buzz around it, and it's almost always said, this is the best Marvel movie yet. Civil War got that, Thor Ragnarok maybe got that, Black Panther got a hell of a lot of that. But this is probably, more so than a lot of those films, in the running for one of the best. Maybe, I don't know. Again, you've just seen a film. I always find it's very hard to sort of judge its longevity based on, you know, a couple hours ago I last saw it. But, I don't know, I don't even know where to begin, but let's just say Thanos as the villain, even though, I don't know, he doesn't even necessarily fill just the villain role, he's almost the main character of this movie. I think it's actually been said this should be called more Thanos Infinity War, because he is the central character. This is his story. If anything, it's almost like acts as an origin story movie for him, as much as like Iron Man 1 was for Iron Man, or Spider-Man Homecoming as the sort of introductory proper movie for Spider-Man, or whatever. Thanos in this movie was fan-fucking-tastic, and thank fuck, because 10-year build-up once again. He had to actually blow it out the park, especially with this sort of, it's kind of a trope now at this point that Marvel movie villains aren't the best. I've had a few decent ones. Loki, for one. Loki pretty much up till this point has been like the one good villain. Everyone says that. Now, there's a few that I do like. Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming was one. Blah, blah, fucking, I'm not going to bother listing, because to be honest, that's probably the only two that I can think of right now. But Thanos, Josh Brolin, whatever, just does a great job on him. And we're probably going to talk more into detail as we go through this movie, but just, I don't know, there's just nothing in this movie, other than nitpicks, nothing disappoints, nothing felt like a letdown. I think that's why this movie just, I came out of it satisfied. satisfied and miserable as fuck because of that ending, but we'll get into that. So the film picks up... Picks up? What the hell was that? Now, I'm just starting to realise as I'm talking now how fucking tired I am. But we're going to try and get through this movie, alright? So, it pretty much picks up exactly where Thor Ragnarok left off, with the Asgardian ship being attacked by Thanos and co. And it's... I don't know, there's a really... It's a nice opening. It's an atmospheric, dark opening with just like the distress beacon, the radio over the just a black screen as it fades in on the attack. And all the Asgardians are dead. I said Asgardians. What the fuck's happening with my voice today? I've not spoken in a few days. No, not even joking. I've not actually spoken in a few days. I've probably been dead silent. What was the last human being I actually spoke to? Oh no, the movies last night I was with someone, so it's fine. I'm not a total hermit. Anyway, most of the Asgardians are dead. It looked like on screen all of them, bar Loki and Thor, for a couple minutes anyway, then just Thor. But apparently half of them were left alive. Somebody said that. I missed it if it was ever mentioned in the movie. But it wasn't really seen or made clear on film. But anyway, here we get our almost immediate introduction to Thanos. And yes, he has the full armor and the helmet and stuff, which goes away in this same scene, and then he's left as bald Homer Simpson mode for the rest of the movie. But whatever, it's fine. We also get to see these four... What are they? Children of Thanos? Not literal, but they're like his minions, basically, is the role they fill, but I can't remember what they're actually called. Sorry, I can't remember. They had a name, like a cult name or something like that. But they're kind of our secondary antagonists for most of the movie, to be honest. And anyway, so we get introduced to them and Thanos, and Loki shows up and does his stuff and dies. A little bit too soon for my liking, if he is indeed dead. Of course, this is Loki. It's not the first time he's died either. Third, actually, if you think about it. Yeah, he fell off the Rainbow Bridge in Thor 1. He died in Thor 2. Whatever. And we also get Hulk again. Oh, there's a good line, actually. I can't remember exactly how it's said, but Loki does the "We have a Hulk" line. That's a fantastic callback to Avengers 1. But anyway, not that it does any good, because even Hulk gets his ass handed to him by Thanos. Anyway, I'm just kind of like describing what happened, which isn't really that interesting, so we'll just move on. But what this opening scene does pretty well is establish power level of Thanos to help establish it for the rest of the movie. That he can go hand to hand with the Hulk and win easily. He can blow up the ship just with like flick of the wrist, basically, for lack of a better term, once he has both Power Stones, Infinity Stones, Power Glove, Infinity, whatever. Is that what his glove's called? It's the Infinity Gauntlet. What the fuck's the Power Glove?
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
Anyway, the movie starts up from there pretty quickly from this point onwards. The pacing's got a good momentum to it. Bruce crashes into Doctor Strange's sanctuary, house thing, and immediately we start having the characters beginning to coalesce. You have Tony gets brought in. Tony and Bruce Banner meeting for the first time since Avengers 2, which is nice. Actually, Bruce meeting a lot of characters apart from Thor for the first time since then, because of course he's been missing all this time. But then, by the end of that scene, after the establishment of Thanos is coming and we need to do something about these Infinity Stones, we get our first action scene with a couple of Thanos' minions arriving on Earth. And I gotta say, these guys, for, you know, lower level disposable minions, they weren't actually that much like disposable minions, if that makes sense. The four of them, now I don't know their names, but you've got Squidward, which is what I'm going to call him because that's what Tony called him in the movie, big guy, girl guy, and there's another one who's, of the four, is the least interesting. He kind of just, skinny guy with hood, I think. Now, as much as I would like to spend an hour and a half talking about this movie, this camera is, as always, having issues with space, so I'm going to try and get this done in another 20-minute chunk or something, since that's all it'll let me to actually record. Whatever. So, let me just hit my main points, because there is so much that can be talked about in this movie, because there's so many characters and so many separate plot threads going on. Peter Dinklage. Didn't know he was in this movie. Yeah, we'll just talk about that. Like, the pair-ups in this movie, sorry, team-ups I should say, in this movie, aren't all ones that you would expect, but they all work really well. Like, to take that one example, Thor gets picked up by the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then the Guardians themselves split off into two groups, with Groot and Rocket going with Thor. the God Angel, Thor. And surprisingly, Rocket and Thor work together so fucking amazingly well, and their whole shenanigans off to get Stormbreaker or whatever, a weapon to defeat Thanos with, it's a good little side quest going on, because everybody has their own side quests in this, and it's kind of cool, because even though Thanos is the main villain of the movie, he doesn't actually come into direct contact with most of these people until the end, and because they're all on their own separate side stories. I feel like I should probably talk about the Wakanda? Am I saying that right? Yeah. Battle and stuff, because I haven't seen Black Panther. I will probably see it at some point, but as of the moment I wasn't really that interested in seeing it in cinema. Like I said, there's a few Marvel movies I haven't seen, plenty I haven't seen in theaters, some I haven't seen at all yet. There was always just something about Black Panther that seemed a little bit too out there for me to take sort of seriously. I don't know. Like, it looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but it's set on Earth. Like, it's the technology level of that, and we see it once again in this movie. Which, if I wasn't aware of what goes on in Black Panther, I would probably be pretty fucking confused, because you have this faction, whatever you want to call it, country, with space-age Star Wars shields covering their entire city. We haven't seen anything like that on Earth before. The closest is Stark Tech, and there is actually a throwaway line in this movie that, I don't know, funny, condescending, by T'Challa's sister, I think, if I'm getting that right. Again, haven't seen the movie, but I think that's the one who makes a lot of Black Panther's tech. She's looking over Vision with the Infinity Stone in his head as they're trying to remove it, so that Thanos can't get his hands on it and they can destroy it. A bit Lord of the Ringsy there, but speaking of Lord of the Rings, we'll get to that later. Maybe if I have time. Fucking camera. And she's asking like, oh, why didn't you do it this techno-jargon blabble way? And Bruce is like, oh, we didn't think of it. We didn't think to do that. And she's like, oh, I'm sure you tried your best. And he's like, haha, I get it, because the Wakandans are so high-tech that they can look down on the rest of the fucking world. I don't know, I don't know, there's something about it, they're just a bit weird. But, whatever, we got the Battle of Naboo against Thanos' forces, which I jokingly say that, but it was a fucking amazing battle. I have no idea what the fuck those creatures were, but it was a nice generic foot soldier, different from the, the Chitauri from the first Avengers movie. Something new to bomb en masse, as Ironmonger was called in fucking War Machine did. Just, I don't know why, that just brought a smile to my face, just cluster bombing these groups of like alien zombie monster things. Basically, that's my main point when it comes to the Wakanda stuff. It's just, it feels a little bit out of place, the technology, the scaling of that. It's kind of like going back to Avengers 1. A group of fuck, I can't remember the goddamn words. I am so tired, I want a coffee. A group of remarkable people who can fight the battles that we couldn't. Or that Wakanda probably could, because they're just so far advanced beyond the rest of us. You have Avengers 1 where you've got like standard National Guard and police forces fighting against an alien invasion, and you needed the likes of Thor and Iron Man and stuff to repel it. But if that same alien invasion had happened in Wakanda instead of New York, then you probably wouldn't need the Avengers. That's how so removed out of place. I kind of feel they are on a power level. But again, I said I wouldn't talk too much about this because I haven't seen Black Panther movie, and this isn't a review of that. This is just small snippets of information that I'm gathering from this movie, Infinity War, on that whole setting, which at present I'm a bit iffy on, but whatever. It still has cool things going on. And I gotta also extend that same slight, it's not really a criticism, it's just a personal preference. I gotta extend that personal preference to Tony Stark and the new Iron Man suit. Wasn't a huge fan of this new nanotech suit, and this could also extend to the Spider-Man suit as well. Although in appearance it's cool, I gotta say the Iron Spider looks cool. I would have liked to have seen a bit more regular Spider-Man for most of them, like maybe for more of the movie, because he gets that Iron Spider suit pretty much straight away. And it would have been nice to see maybe the I said it a minute ago, I've already forgotten. Again, I'm so tired. The nanotech Iron Man suit could have been saved for later, because I don't know, there's that same kind of, it seems too far-fetched, too advanced, and not to mention, it just didn't, his utilization, I'm talking about Tony Stark now, the utilization of his powers don't feel quite the same as they did before in every previous iteration of the Iron Man suit. To be honest, during his actual fight with Thanos towards the end of the movie, it seemed more like the fight style that Groot would have, to be blunt. Him actually being able to morph like hammers and shit out of his arms and his feet, and you know, I don't know. I don't know quite how to put it into words, but I preferred the classic Iron Man suits to this one. It just felt like a little bit of a step too far, but again, personal fucking preference. It was still cool, still a cool moment, and that fight with Thanos was still awesome. So that's that. I'm trying to. I'm kind of feeling rushed now because of this fucking camera problem, which is annoying. I want to just sit here and relax and go through the movie piece by piece. There are so many characters in this movie. I simply don't have time to go through all of their individual arcs and whatever. But surprisingly, for the amount of characters they have, they managed to do again what they did with the original Avengers movie, and that is, despite the number of characters, actually give them all fairly good representation and fairly good arcs and continuations of their story. Tony and Spider-Man would be one, Peter Quill, Star-Lord, Gamora especially in this, especially with her relationship to Thanos, who was of course her adoptive father. I would say honestly, her and Thanos, some of the best stuff in this movie. Now, I kind of want to rewatch Guardians 1 and 2 for this, because I'm not quite sure if the fulfillment, the conclusion of the romance sort of arc of Star-Lord and Gamora was quite on point, because I kind of feel up until this point, she's kind of been fucking him off because he's a bit of an immature prick. I say that lovingly, I love the character, but he's a bit of an immature prick. And he doesn't really... he continues to be so in this, especially with his interactions with Thor. Are you mimicking my voice? This is how I always speak. I was going to laugh to myself for a second. But then she basically admits her love for him and whatever. Can't decide yet if that felt out of place or too rushed or whatever. But I don't know. She did trust him. Of all the Guardians, she trusted him to be the one to kill her if Thanos ever captured her. Which I think definitely spoke more volumes than I think even the "I love you" line. I perfected standing so still that I've become imperceptible. Sorry, Drax. I fucking loved Drax in this. Oh, okay. I wanted to go back and talk more about Spider-Man. In fact, I'm definitely going to go back and talk about Spider-Man now. So, I already said I would like to have more regular Spider-Man suit rather than the Iron Spider. But Peter himself, I still love this Peter Parker. I loved Spider-Man Homecoming. It's up there, definite top half, maybe top third of my favourite movies. I made a list. I had a list at some point. I was very bored at work. I'm always bored at work. And I decided to just list out all the Marvel movies. But it's definitely up there at the top. Because I'm drawing a blank on the actor's name, but he just does a great job. He's so likeable. And his, again, talking about the pair-ups of characters here, his relationship with Tony is one of the better things in this movie as well. This is a continuation, or I don't know how many story arcs has Tony Stark had by this point. It's just been one long, weaving one throughout the entire MCU, and it's come to this point of he's essentially taken up the mantle as a father figure to this guy, and that makes the last scene all the more goddamn tragic. We're just going to skip to the last scene then, I guess. Okay, so Thanos wins, essentially. And now I don't think he quite has. I think Doctor Strange knows what he's doing. Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone to look at every possible outcome of the battle and determines that there is a 1 in a 14 million chance, I think, was the number he gave, of them winning. Now, he doesn't outline how they're going to win, but when he surrenders the Time Stone to him, he basically says that this is the only way, and turns to Stark and says, we're in the end game now. Now, I don't think he's saying that confidently. Benedict Cumberbatch, great actor. Again, just there's something about the way he says that. He's like, this is a gamble, but it's the best chance. It's the only chance they have. Now, I think it's going to be a case of you let Thanos win, but then you undo it, rather than try to stop him, die, and have there be no one left to undo it in the future. I think that's vaguely the direction they're going. You need to keep... Maybe Tony is going to play a big enough part, which is why he was willing to sacrifice the stone to save Tony. Maybe he thinks that he's going to be essential in the endgame. Maybe Tony has to sacrifice himself in the next movie. I would kind of expect that to be the case. But either way, Thanos gets them all, gets all the Infinity Stones, and he does wipe out half the universe with a click of his fingers. Oh, I am glad they did this. I am fucking... in a horrible sounding way, I am so glad they actually went with this. Now, I'm not a big comic book guy, but I'm aware that Thanos is essentially as high tier in the Marvel universe as you can get. Maybe there's one or two other characters that I don't know well enough. What is it? There's more like godlike entities. Like, I don't know, what was Ego from Guardians 2? Those kind of people. I've totally drawn a blank on what they were called, but yeah. Generally speaking, though, Thanos is about as high tier as you can get as a villain. And underpowering him, making him not be used to his full potential, would have probably harmed the character, harmed the franchise in general for the amount of build-up they've done. So they actually do end this movie with Thanos winning, essentially. Apart from that loophole that I think Doctor Strange just put in there. And goddamn, the last moment of this movie with him just, what is the wording he used? Watching a sunrise on a grateful universe. Is that the words? Something like that. And he does. After sacrificing the one thing he loves, even if in a sick, controlling kind of way, and fulfilling what he believed to be his purpose and wiping out half the universe, he sits. I don't know where he is. He's not with his army or on his ship. He's just in a shack in a field, it looks like, watching the sunrise. And there's just this expression on his face of grief and satisfaction. I think that's the best way to describe it. Yeah, and this is why Thanos was a great villain in this movie. I'm so happy with how they did it. But everyone dying, that was tough to watch. But I'll tell you who was the toughest to watch. Yes, fucking Bucky died. T'Challa died. I say die, I don't know if die is the right word. They just ceased to be. They just stopped existing. Like, I don't know, is there a distinction there between the two? This kind of reminds me of a Tournament of Power situation again. Are they dead or are they just erased? But the one that really struck me was Peter and Tony being there to watch it happen. Now, this wasn't my thought. I actually saw this online just earlier today when I was watching some videos. So this isn't an opinion that I've just come up with. But the fact that Peter, of all the characters who faded away into dust, he was the one who seemed to really know what was coming. Everyone else, it was kind of like, oh. Peter, he's like, something's wrong, I don't want this to happen, help. Spider sense. Innit? And Tony, who thought he was going to die minutes earlier, who I think most of the audience thought was going to die during this movie or during the next one, he has to watch this kid that he's essentially... I also remember at the start of the movie he's talking to Pepper Potts about wanting a child, or dreaming that he had a child. Little wrap up of that kind of subplot going on in his story. And he has to watch this guy die. Leaving him and Gamora as the only people from that group, which included most of the Guardians and Doctor Strange, all gone. Whew. I will say, the Groot dying scene, fading away scene, that one almost got me, and the Peter Parker fading away scene, that one did get me. Of all the characters who died, I'll be fair, I didn't give a crap about most of them, but those two. Now I imagine my camera's probably going to start yelling at me to stop recording soon, so I'm going to, and then I'm going to think about last things to say about this movie. Right, so I took those couple of moments to actually write myself some notes of the last things I wanted to talk about. First of which, so I mentioned Lord of the Rings earlier, Red Skull's back. Now, of course, he's not actually voiced by played by Hugo Weaving. It's pretty well known that Hugo Weaving wasn't particularly happy with his role in Captain America, the first one, as the Red Skull, and apparently he said he never wants to play him again, which is why he wasn't actually in this movie. But the fact that the character appeared, probably the biggest moment in this movie for me. Now, there was a few moments. There was that. The end with Thanos winning wasn't so much a moment as a moment, but I'd say Red Skull was unexpected, in a good way. It was a nice way to tie back in that character who had been theorized to have survived after what happened in the first one. He touched the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone, which we see properly being used in this movie, with Thanos being able to teleport with it. So it was kind of reasonably assumed that this would have teleported Red Skull across the fucking cosmos to God knows who knows where, and here, apparently, where he's now guarding the Soul Stone. So yeah, which brings us probably to a nice intersection to talk more about Thanos as a character. I've already said he was a good villain. He was a good, powerful antagonist for our heroes. Let's actually talk about his character, which is something that you unfortunately don't get to say too much about Marvel movie villains. Oh, you don't get to say too much about a lot of movie villains. Good ones, yes. And he's definitely a good one. Don't get me wrong, I think, unless again I've cut it out because this video is an absolute mess, I think I said at the start that this is more a Thanos movie than anyone else's. Now, don't mistake that for me saying that he is the hero here, because Thanos is still by all means an absolute bastard. He is insane. He is the Mad Titan. But his motivation is actually clear, and it's there, and from a certain angle it makes sense. And it does tie into things that I have thought myself about the future of the human race. The future of our civilization in general, when it comes to overpopulation, when it comes to resources. These anxieties and fears. And this is someone looking at that on a universal scale with the will to actually do what he thinks needs to be done about it. Now, of course, an argument could be made that surely there's another way, and there probably is another way, and if he was to utilize the Infinity Stones for another purpose, probably possible. But up until this point, before he even had the Gauntlet, before he even had any of the Infinity Stones, his mindset was, as is described in this movie, even on his homeworld of Titan, kill half the population. Random lot. Don't discriminate between rich and poor. Don't discriminate between anything. Just random 50-50. These ones live, these ones die. And you see it in action in a cutscene. A cutscene? It's not a fucking video game. A flashback scene to Gamora's childhood when Thanos first kidnaps her. I'm just going to use that word because no matter what his intention it was still fucking kidnapping. A half genocide of the rest of our people. You see them, they don't actually divide her Gamora's people up. They say, pick a side. They tell them, pick a side, left or right. And there's no indication which one's which, but in the end, one of them gets wiped out and the other one survives. Now, we don't know if that actually helped, but Thanos says, later on, when him and Gamora are together again, that planet, look at the planet now. Everyone has full bellies, the skies are clear. Now, we don't know for certain if that's true or not, but that's certainly how Thanos wants to see things, and he would like to imagine that his work is actually doing good in this way. Now, again, as I've said, I'm not much of a comic person. My understanding in the comics, some of the interpretations in the comics anyway, is that he wants to wipe out half the universe to satisfy death. That Thanos has an obsession with death, which at least at some point or another is a literal person in sexy women robes called Death, who he has a thing for. But either way, it's just a general obsession with killing people for death, and maybe there's a balance element to that as well. Here, they've clearly dropped that, and I think the angle they've went for with him is much more relatable, but don't confuse that with sympathetic, because I think you gotta be pretty messed up if you think this is the right thing to do. But you can understand from a purely soulless, pragmatic kind of standpoint, it might be a solution, ignoring the total societal upheaval and the probable dark age you've dropped humanity into now that, you know, half of humanity is dead. But yeah, just he has a motivation beyond killing things because I'm evil, or even taking over the universe. Somebody asks him, I can't remember who, I can't remember what scene this is, and I only remember his response, and that's, what will you do once you've achieved what you want to achieve, once you've killed half the universe? Rest, is what he says, and watch a sunrise over a grateful universe, which is what he does. He does not want to sit on a throne above the universe and be its conqueror or its ruler. He just wants to do what he thinks is best, and that's it. I don't know how else I can put it, just great villain and absolute fucking loon. And I was tying this back to that scene with Red Skull, because in order to get the Soul Stone, he has to sacrifice something that he loves. Now, I think everyone knows where this is going, but Gamora doesn't. Maybe she's convinced herself that he is an absolute, unloving, hateful maniac who just wants to destroy and conquer and kill, kill, kill. When in truth, that's actually not what he is. She's seeing him as the stupid supervillain. But when he's told that he has to sacrifice something that he loves if he wants the Soul Stone, you can see it's not anger on his face. It's not, "Oh no, I have been thwarted." It's just, you can see the immediate grief because he now knows what he has to do. Which is kind of a running theme in this movie, actually. Doing what has to be done. It's entirely Thanos' story arc, including this smaller part of that story arc. It's what Doctor Strange needs to do in order to, you know, save everyone. He even says at some point he'd sacrifice Tony and Peter Parker to protect the stone, which in the end he doesn't do, but then, like I said earlier, I think he actually has done, just timey-wimely. So yeah. He throws her off a fucking cliff, and it's horrible. It is horrible. But it's a nice scene. It's not a nice scene. It's a good scene. And what she says to him, she's waited so long for the universe to fuck him over. I don't know what the word she used was, but it was something along those lines. For him to get his comeuppance, for him to come up against a brick wall in his plans, all because he doesn't love anyone. Haha, fuck you. Why are you looking at me like that? Get your fucking big green hands off me, and thrown off a cliff. It's a hard scene. And I think after that point, Thanos himself has nothing left to lose. Which is, incidentally, something that Thor says earlier in the movie. His brother's dead, his sister's dead, his father's dead, his people are dead. If he goes and fights Thanos again and loses, what else have I got to lose? Maybe loss is a big theme in this movie as well, actually. Anyway, let's have a look. I don't know if I have too much more to say on Thanos right there, but I just wonder what they're going to do in the next movie. I mean, obviously they're going to... Who are they going to bring back? Because there's all the people who got erased. They're almost certainly coming back. But then there's also other people who died outside of that. Gamora, killed. Loki at the start, killed. Are they going to be able to be brought back as well? I don't think so. I think it would be cheap as fuck. But certainly the mass death is going to get reversed somehow. And I've already given my theory on roughly on what I think is going to happen. Doctor Strange has a plan, and that plan involves Tony. Even if Doctor Strange himself is not involved in the plan, because he's one of the people who had to get erased in order for it to work. Ooh. Anyway, I've already talked about his minions. Again, I'm not sure how much of this video has been cut earlier on because it was a fucking mess. But I just wanted to say that I think they were surprisingly good for, like, generic minion characters. They all had... Okay, no, not all of them. Squidward had sort of a bit of a personality and a bit of a... Its powers were interesting, and they complemented really well the wizards, the magic users between Doctor Strange and... Fuck, I forgot his name. And I don't want to guess, because then I'll sound racist as fuck. Okay, but no, the wizardry sort of battle between them, Harry Potter flashbacks, was really good. And then of course you got the big guy. He's a big guy. You've got the girl who's sort of a bit more of a fighter. Also seemed more like the leader after Squidward, and another one who didn't really do anything. For the most part, I thought they were quite good, and they were a good placeholder until Thanos could actually come and wreck shit up. Stop embarrassing me in front of the wizards. Again, for all of its darkness, there is some great humor in this movie, and I love it for that. Hulk! Where the fuck is Hulk? So actually, I realised this coming out of the movie. In the trailer, you see it's a shot for the trailer of the Avengers running, Cap in front, Falcon, Black Widow, and Hulk is charging with them. Scene is not in the movie. Now, I'm okay with that. It's just misdirection. I'm sure I talked about this possibly in The Last Jedi for same things. Maybe it was definitely Rogue One. This is a similar thing. Although, in the case of Rogue One, it was cutscenes, so not really the same. Just misdirection in the advertisements, and I'm okay with movies doing that. I've seen people complain. I've seen people fucking go, false advertisement! Which I think is dumb. I'm fine with misdirection. If it keeps me on my toes and makes the movie a little bit less predictable, which I'll definitely say this movie is not the formula of a regular Marvel's movie. Or maybe it's just because that ending. Maybe it's just the ending is the one big departure. But on the whole, this movie has twists and not twists, but it has unexpected shit to it, which I really appreciate. Thanos throws a fucking moon at Tony. That's all I've got written here. Just Thanos throws a moon. Again, it's just such a high tier villain, which you need for this movie. After this amount of build up, you needed something big. Big. I said that weird. Can I do it again? Big. Big. Okay. And that whole fight, between Thanos and the Guardians, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, that was a great fight, and everything was implemented so well, because of course the Gauntlet is the real threat, it's the major threat of Thanos. So what do? You go after the Gauntlet. Doctor Strange's cape, stop him closing his fist, wrap around, that was a great idea. I've already talked about Iron Man's suit being a bit weird, but he lobs some nano goo, I guess, at him to keep his hand open. And then, of course, the combined attack of everyone, Spider-Man holding him down, everything like this, to get... And Mantis, of course, who I was thinking this whole time, what the fuck is she doing in this movie? I know she's not a fighter, but what is she going to contribute here? And then, just then, she falls through a Doctor Strange portal to try and put Thanos under. Which was a great implementation. Everyone's powers were implemented well, is what I'm getting at here. To fight this guy, and then to try and pull off his gauntlet. Which of course leads us to the big what the fuck, Peter. No, not you, Peter, the other Peter. What the fuck, Quill. It's all your fault. No, I'm not thinking that. I'm forgiving him. Yes, okay. You maybe doomed the universe, but again, I think it's all in Doctor Strange's plan. This is something that had to happen. But they almost got the gauntlet off, which I think had to be done at least once in the movie. But you got to think, if that's the real threat, why don't you just try and take it off him? So they did, they tried. They put on a good goddamn effort, and you could see that it took a lot of work. It took Iron Man in the Iron Suit, Spider-Man in the Iron Spider Suit, pulling this fucking thing to almost get it off. And also to have him basically be paralyzed. But when Peter realizes, realizes that Gamora's dead, he loses it. Rightfully so, stupidly so, but rightfully so. And the plan goes to hell. Or the plan stays on track, as I keep reverting back to, because I still think this is all in Doctor Strange's plan. I don't know if I had a point to go from there. Oh no, it was just Thanos throws the moon. I actually got more out of that note than than by rights I should have. So, as I always like to do, I like to talk about soundtracks, because as I always say, I love soundtracks. But unfortunately, in the Marvel movies, they're not good. I'm just going to say that flat out. The Marvel movies have never had good music, with the sole exception being the Avengers theme. So I'll at least say that theme track, the Avengers theme, if you know the one I mean, pops up for the first time on Captain America's reveal, which seems appropriate. And Falcon and Black Widow also then appear during that scene. So at that point, the whole Avengers have been revealed in this movie at some point, staggered throughout the movie, but this is the last of them now. And you could argue between Tony and Cap. Cap is probably the heart of the Avengers team, so it was appropriate for it to be on his reveal. And that fight scene, it's a smaller fight scene, it's just between a couple of the minions, the girl one and the boring one, and these Avengers here. I haven't actually talked about Vision or Scarlet Witch that much. Whatever, they were not on my list. They were also there. In Edinburgh. I heard that there was some filming going on in Scotland, but anyway. There was some other music in the movie, though. I want to go check it out, actually, probably after I've finished recording here. What plays during the end credits is particularly melancholic, and what I almost want to say is Thanos' theme. Which is strange, because usually the villain theme has got to be something, you know, but this is just something very sad. But it was recognisable throughout the movie a few times. And definitely, it just naturally is going to be associated with that last scene of Thanos just sitting there, grieving and also smiling that he's achieved what he wanted to. And then it goes into this piece. I want to check that. That was the one, not recognisable enough for me to like hum it right now or anything like that, but it was definitely the one piece that I quite liked in the movie, which wasn't the generic, I forget what the term is, somebody else could probably say it in the comments, but there's like placeholder music. When it comes to editing the movie, they put in placeholder, generic as fuck action movie music to give the editor a chance to, you know, cut clips together in time with the beats of the music, you know what I mean? But rather than then go and compose something better, they just stick with that. Now that's kind of a gross simplification of it, but that's pretty much how all the Marvel MCU movies have been doing it up until this point. Again, the Avengers theme is about the only exception of a good, proper theme tune, which I still love. So I'm kind of out of things to say right now, which is probably just well because I'm just going to start repeating myself after a while. I love this movie. I think I liked it more than I thought I would. I liked Civil War. I came out of Civil War like, yeah, that was fucking awesome. But then it's not really one that I've got much urge to go back and watch. I loved Homecoming. Again, it's one that I will watch again, but it wasn't one I particularly want to go back and watch. This is the first one. This is the first MCU movie since probably Avengers 1 that I feel like I go back in cinema and watch a second time. And I look forward to actually getting on Blu-ray or whatever and adding it to my pretty small MCU collection, to be honest. Can I see them here? What have we got? I've got Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 and Avengers. Over there, behind the camera. Fuck you. I really like this movie, and I really look forward to what they do next. My understanding, as is teased in the end scene with Nick Fury calls in someone, apparently that is Captain Marvel. I did not know this at the time. Somebody in the cinema I was with, well, didn't actually go with them, we just happened to bump into these people who I knew, said it was Captain Marvel, and I've since double checked. Yes, apparently that and the new Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, are going to be set before this, which I think makes sense. Because you can time jump. They have time jumped in these movies before. Keep these movies before, so that the next chronological one to come after this is straight into Avengers 4. I think that makes sense. Maybe end those movies round about the point where this movie ends, so you could see the repercussions of the half the population disappearing. But have the next chronological be straight into Avengers 4. And what they're going to do from that, I don't know. Are they just going to go after Thanos? Is that going to be the plot of the next movie, just the search for Thanos to get that glove off him and rewind time, or whatever the fucking plan is? Because the glove looked pretty fucked up. After he uses it, the glove seems charred and broken if you saw that. It doesn't particularly dwell on it for long, but you can see it pan up to the rest of Thanos. And his whole arm looks burnt, simply from the power unleashed by this thing. But it still seems usable. I actually thought, is it one use thing, is it now fucked? But he was able to teleport away with it, so I guess it still has power, but probably not enough to... I think its main purpose, which I'm sure is what the glove was actually built for, that's what he clicked his fingers to wipe out half the universe. I don't think he could do other equally massive feats with it. It was like a one-use thing. I don't know that for sure, that's just how I feel, and that's why the glove couldn't be used to, you know, double the resources of the universe, which would solve the problem, I guess. The same problem that Thanos had of overpopulation and whatnot. But I think his mindset has always been set his whole life on killing. Wiping out half populations of each planet. This balance thing. So that's what he designed the gauntlet for. Or that's what he got Tyrion Lannister to design the gauntlet for. I still find it funny that, whatever, dwarf, but massive. I don't really have much to say on Peter Dinklage's character, but whatever, I think it's cool. He's in the MCU now. Everyone wants to be in the MCU. It's like Star Wars. Everyone wants to just play random stormtroopers just so that they can say they were in Star Wars. Yeah, I really do not know where they're going to go next from here, but I hope it pays off. I hope they keep the impact from these deaths meaningful. They don't just undo it all. Don't just do a Dragon Ball, everything's back to normal, yay, no consequences. Actually have at least some of these people die. Like I said, I imagine the ones who get blinked away from existence, they're going to bring them back. But Tony is going to have to die. Possibly Cap, possibly quite a few of the original Avengers are going to have to sacrifice themselves somehow in order to undo the mass genocide. And saying that, probably the likes of Loki and Gamora are permadead. Maybe not Gamora, actually. Maybe Gamora is a separate situation because she was sacrificed for Infinity Stone, and you could see her soul, question mark, at the end of the movie. When she asks Thanos, did you do it? Or what was it? Did you find what you were looking for? I don't know. Anyway, my camera's blinking at me, so I'm really going to stop recording now just in case I lose everything if I go much longer. But thank you very much for watching. Seriously, recommend this movie. I don't feel like I should need to say that because if you're watching this, you should have seen it already, but I hope you liked it as well. Leave comments, blah 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 blah. I'm going to stop recording. Bye.